So Ofcom's £150,000 Saxgate fine is the biggest the BBC has ever received. Yes, it is. That's true.
But first, should Jonathan Ross and Russell Brand pay the fine Ofcom has slapped on the BBC for last October's Saxgate scandal? Legally, they can't be made to. It's the Beeb's responsibility to foot the bill. But some political heavyweights, including Justice Secretary Jack Straw, Olympic Minister Tessa Jowell and biker babe Hazel Blears, have all weighed in, saying the stars who orchestrated the outrage should be made to pay the consequences. I don't think that's fair. Brand gave up his radio show, albeit to make more money shooting Hollywood films. Ross lost £1.5 million through his 3-month suspension, so both have paid a price of sorts. And let's not forget, someone at the BBC chose to air that sketch of the pair leaving obscene messages on 78-year-old Andrew Sachs's answer phone. Ross and Brand, I truly believe them when they say this, they said that if anything in that skit had crossed the line, they expected someone at the BBC would remove it, but nobody did. So, should the BBC pick up the bill? Ultimately, of course, though, that means we'd all be picking up the bill, which doesn't seem very fair when you consider that more than 40,000 licence payers lodged official complaints. So I suppose for me it boils down to the fine making no sense whatsoever. It's the equivalent to over 1,000 TV licences. It's robbing Peter and robbing Paul in as much as no one wins at all. We're all losers. I'll start with you, Terry.
Oh, that'll teach them, won't it? I mean, it's like the lynch mob all over again. You know, Hazel Blears or any of those MPs to say something that can be a bit popular. I mean, you say 40,000 complaints. There were about 6 at the time, weren't there? Two. Yeah, that's it. And then
neither of them about the issue.
Yeah. And once the papers get hold of it, then what it is, it's the credit crunch. People are thinking they're getting paid all.
But there is righteous. You know, there are a lot of angry people about it.
I thought it was unbelievably wrong for them to do what they did. I'm sorry, the fact that people didn't know until it was revealed is hardly the point. I think it was just plain wrong. And they thought they'd get away with it.
Well, no, I don't think that...
I think they thought they'd get away with it.
Morally, I don't think they expected it to go out, really. I think that's why some of the stuff that was said on it was actually said. I mean, I wouldn't have found it funny anyway. But I do think... What do Ofcom do with the money that they get?
I was going to say, just from your point of view on the fine, I mean, this fine has been levied. Someone has to pay it. Should it be the BBC? Should it be the Stars? Or has Ofcom made a big mistake slapping the BBC with a fine anyway?
I'll be honest with you, the BBC are very gung-ho with our money, full stop. I've worked for them for a long time, and, you know, where they make savings in some areas, you know, when it gets nearer the top, it's almost as if they become a little fiefdom in their own right, and so they are a bit gung-ho with our money.
So they can handle the fine.
Do you think that's why
also because it's a big organisation, it becomes very kind of like the civil service. Nobody will take responsibility for anything, and I think this is what's happened with the Jonathan Ross, Russell Brand case.
No, because the controller
Leslie Douglas resigned.
Yeah, she resigned.
Well, it's one of those assistant heads will roll. I mean, you've been in politics long enough, you know.
You know, but to say nobody's done anything at the BBC, they did.
Yeah.
They did take action.
Is the fine misguided? I mean, is it stupid to fine the BBC?
I think that the fine is right, but who should pay it is problem. I mean, for the reasons you've said. As Terry says, what difference will it make to these two chaps?
If Jonathan
it's
Ross
peanuts for them.
If they paid it, they'd probably claim it off the tax.
Yeah. So I think it has to be the BBC, but what maybe the BBC could be made to do is use that money for something else rather than it go to Ofcom.
Where does the fine end up? Where does all that money go?
I really don't know the answer.
I don't know what to do with it.
That would be an important factor in this, wouldn't it? Because in fact, if it goes back into the tax kitty, then in a sense, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous. For what it's worth, a tasteless one, but it was a joke.
No.
It was a joke. And that's it, you know, and people do tasteless jokes all the time. I mean, the Daily Mail have gone berserk over this story. It's almost as if they're an interested party in another media group, almost.
But you see,
right, they've gone berserk. And Paul Dacre...
You get paid by the BBC, so you can't have a go at them, can you?
Paul Dacre, who edits the Mail, has said stuff about people. I mean, you talk to any Mail journalist who's even a tiny bit indiscreet. He has said stuff that would make Jonathan Ross go,
I'm not
steady,
defending the
that's a
Daily
bit
Mail.
much.
But I don't think...
No, but they've led this witch hunt.
But that doesn't mean it's wrong. That doesn't mean it's wrong.
You can't argue against the fact that the public was outraged, that some jokes...
the public are easily whipped up by these other interested media parties. I just wish, you know, as a comedian, working for the BBC that once they would stand up, stick their neck out and go, do you know what? It was a joke. If you don't get it, if you don't like it, fair enough.
What was
Watch
funny
another
about
channel.
it, Mark? What was funny about
listen,
leaving
I don't think it's a good
leaving
hang on,
a
I don't-
message? What was funny
I don't think
about
it's
it?
a good joke, but only 2 people complained on the night, and neither of them
that's
complained about
because not
that
many
thing.
people listen to the
And a
show.
million or so people were listening.
wasn't
so
a joke,
evidently,
it was-
But if,
they were
Marcus,
entertained
if we
by it.
accept that it did cross a line as far as public taste is concerned, the medium line, wherever that may be, and I think we have to accept that because the 2 stars have apologised, the head of Radio 2 has quit, it's still being talked about now. I think we have to accept it did cross a line. I'm kind of actually sympathetic to your call about BBC bosses standing up for the talent.
It would just
once
be
in a while,
nice once
but it is a
they did.
public organisation, a public service organisation that everyone has to pay for. Well, nearer, damn it, everyone has to pay for. So let's, if we accept that everyone's had to put their £120, £130 into the BBC, is it fair that Ofcom then fines the BBC and that money, you know, 1,053 licences worth is taken out, and it goes back into Ofcom, which is sponsored by the Treasury anyway, so it means that we, the taxpayer, will be paying less for Ofcom, if this makes any sense. I mean, is it right that the BBC should be fined at all? Should Ross...
For this, no. For this, absolutely not. There's already been a load of fallout from it. A guy who I work with on Radio 4, Mitch Ben, came up with, I think, the perfect description for the licence fee in the BBC, the mistake that people make. The BBC is a bus, not a taxi, right? You get on the bus, and everyone else is on the bus as well. And if you're very lucky, it might go somewhere near where you live.
Yeah.
It's not a taxi. You don't pay your licence fee and get to ride along and dictate where the BBC goes. It's a bus, not a taxi. And frankly, I think there should be an entry exam when you take out your licence fee. Should be the same as... You know what? If you're not grown up enough to get it and to understand that different people like different things, don't have a telly, don't have a radio. You're not qualified to be exposed to that level
Yes, but
of media.
even if you accept that people are aware that they can have different things, it doesn't mean they're going to like everything that's there.
also there
We don't
has-
necessarily have to
there
have
should-
we
this
don't
is
have
a-
hardcore porn shown on public service
Absolutely.
television
and
in this country.
You can't just say just because they thought they were being funny. What this is about is these 2 guys were so rich and famous and successful.
Well, that's
and actually,
snobbery, though, isn't it? Then
Yeah,
that's
no,
kicking in.
so they thought...
kind of thought they could get away with
with anything.
I mean,
And
I mean, the
that's
idea
what
that you-
people
No, but there's-
reacted
the
against.
whole point of having a production team behind you is there are people there that are supposed to be legally aware. Well, I'm doing this show, there's someone sitting in another room, crossing his fingers, right, crossing his legs to keep, you know, everything inside, worried about what I'm going to say, and it's his job to ensure I'm kept on track. Somebody at the BBC let Ross Brand down, you could say, let the public down. And that's, I guess, where the BBC has got their fine. But who should pay it is the question. Amy, what do people have to say?
OK, let's start with Kate then on line 2.